Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game. Tuesday with me, MKT. An absolute pleasure to have you with me. Really looking forward to tonight. One of the people I've looked up to my entire life, really. I say my entire life. I used to be a booze bag when I was 20, so not really then. And then I started running, and he is ultimate. The great Ryan Sands joining us tonight. Cannot wait to chat to him. Oh, man, that's going to be awesome. Good evening to you guys. I hope you are well. Got a great show lined up today. And then we're going to talk a little bit of cricket before we get to Ryan. Tonight, it's just me. It's me and my 3 out of 10 face. And we're going to have a good one. No Vody today, but she is back tomorrow with the skip pass. And really, really looking forward to that. But for now, let's get straight into it. So, of course, the cricket, it happened. The English won the second test. And then I listened to an interview with Joe Root, and he started talking about Ben Stokes. I thought, okay, I'll listen to this. And then he started saying, we need to acknowledge that we're in the presence of greatness. And then I was like, oh no. Oh no, Joe. Oh no. Oh no, Joe. Because when you start to use words like greatness, you need to be very, very careful, especially when he started talking about greatness as an all-rounder. And then I started to get worried. I thought, oh, no, prisoner of the moment. Oh, Joe Root. Oh, my goodness. You just had a baby in your defense. Tough times. But let's not be ridiculous. So it's unbelievable to me. This is unbelievable to me. He says, we are in the presence of greatness. Mr. Incredible, he called them. I'm like, what are we doing here? Joe, come on. But okay, people will say, oh, you're just biased. You don't like Ben Stokes. Maybe there's an anti-English bias as a cricket fan. You know, as a South African, I'm compelled to be repulsed by anything English, Australian in cricket. Maybe it is that. So we all know men lie, women lie. The numbers don't lie. I'll argue he's not even the best British, so he's not even the best English all-rounder to ever play cricket. And that's not just me saying it, because I defer to numbers, right? That takes the drunk bar guy argument out of it. Yeah, come on. Just kind of force the argument down my throat till I have to say yes. The numbers are a great equalizer. Men lie, women lie, numbers, they don't lie. So let's have a look at Ben Stokes' numbers. Let's start with Stokes' numbers. All right. So 65 games, I think that's a fair stretch, right? That kind of lets you know what sort of player you've got. That isn't a highlights package of a guy's career. That's a fair stretch. 65 games, just under 4,500 runs, 258, that great score. I think that's against South Africa, in fact. Ooh, that's ugly. Average 38, okay. You know, not world class, he's not getting in as a batsman into my top 6 if I'm talking legendary or great. 10 hundreds, 22 50s, 74 catches. I can work with that. Hey, this guy's decent. The bowling, not too bad. 156 sticks at an average of 31. I start to think, okay, that is mediocre. Because they've had another good one. The other good one was so good, they knighted him. So good they knighted him. Let's have a look at Botham's numbers, right? The great Sir Ian Botham. Of course, we always kind of look at our own generation and go, yeah, it was always better. You know how old people are. Yeah, you youngsters, you're not as tough as we are. But I look at these numbers, I go, okay, Beefy managed to play 100 tests. Number one, that's its own thing, right? Stokes had a couple of injuries, and the discipline, you know. So I don't know if he'll get to 100 tests because he's already kind of showed us who he is. He's, as much as it's all good now. We won the World Cup. Things are turned around. I don't want to persecute him for the past. But as with anybody in life, if they've done something before, they're capable of it again. What's to say the next time he's out at a pub, somebody says something out of turn? I'm just saying, so 40 more tests, big gamble that he's going to get there. But I'm looking at Beefy. What's he given me? 14 test hundreds, better. 22 50s, exactly the same. 200 catches. Oh, why is that happening? Where's Stokes been there? That's double, 1.5 times the catches, basically. Okay. So you probably go with Beefy as a batsman, right? You do. Or it could go either way. 5-run split, it could go either way. But then I come to the bowling. I don't think Stokes is getting to 300 test wickets. Fit as he is, what's he, 28? He's not, you can't be an all-rounder for another 6 years, and bowling's a heavy, heavy thing to lift. And then he wants to be their guy making 150 as well. Remember, it doesn't last forever. There's no way he's going to be as good a bowler as Beefy. There just is no way he's getting to 350 even. Let's be kind. Another 200 test wickets, I'll give him that. That's not happening. And then I'm still looking at a 31 average. So he's not as good as Beefy as a bowler. And we can go either way with the bat. Really, I can go either way. At 33.5, 38, what's the difference there? So men lie, women lie, numbers, they don't lie. That's not me saying Beefy's better. The numbers tell you, right? As batsmen, take either. As a bowler, it's not even close. It's not even close. I'm sorry, Stokes isn't even in the ballpark. He's not even in the ballpark. So that's just in England. So he's not the best English all-rounder to ever play the game. Now, when we talk about greatness, this word's so overused. It is so overused. Ben Stokes has had a good 3 years. He's had a good 3 years. That's all he's had, by the way. He's had one good Ashes series. One. And listen, that innings is folklore. Let's not take that away from him. But one moment doesn't make you great. Listen, I watched Ricky Ponting make 100 of a lifetime at the Wanderers in the World Cup final. Is that the moment where you'd say, oh, Ricky Ponting's the greatest batsman of all time? That's not the moment that makes you. Consistency. I need to see you 5 years. Can he deliver 5 years? I'm not asking for Ponting 10 years. I'm not asking for Tendulkar 15 years. I'm not asking for Brian Lara 15 years. Just give me 5 years of greatness. He's given me 3 years of very good. He's given me 1 year of true greatness. The last year, the Ashes, the World Cup, etc. You can't deny that's great. But that doesn't make you a great career. Mediocre batsman and the bowling. Let's look at greatness. When I say great, let's go to the top of the tree in terms of all-rounders. The very best. And there's no debating these two, right? On the left there, if you are the podcast audience, I will read it to you. His name, Jacques Kallis. Jacques Kallis, ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about greatness, if I have to say, is he great, is he not? You're not great. Jacques Kallis has 13,000 test runs at an average of 55, right? That's just his batting. Oh my goodness. That's just his batting. 4,500s, 58 50s. And also remember, by the way, first slip, second slip. After Graham Smith quit, he was our first slip. But reliable bucket hand, second slip. Hardest position for me on the cricket field, easily first slip. Went from second slip, first slip, 200 catches. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Double. There's no way Stokes is getting 200 catches. And then we're going to go to the bowling. His average is about the same as Stokes. And he's got 292 wickets? It's about 100 more wickets. This is greatness, folks. So when Joe Root says we're amongst greatness, do me a favor, Joe. Do me a favor. As a batsman, could you compare Stokes to Kallis? Would you even dare? On your worst day, on the worst day of the month during COVID, would you dare say, I'll take Stokes over Kallis? There's not a person who should not be restrained and put into a mental asylum on this planet who thinks they know cricket who take Stokes over Kallis. No way. There is no way. And then the bowling, it's negligible. It's not me saying it, it's the numbers. And then for me, the second greatest of all time. And some West Indian people will tell you the greatest cricketer of all time. They'll argue for this man. Garfield Sobers. Look at those numbers. It's astonishing. And this is on uncovered pitches, by the way. Ben Stokes is averaging 38 on roads. Flat, pancakes. Garfield Sobers played 93 matches, 8,000 runs. His high score is 365, by the way, which is just disgusting. Not out. But then here's where the greatness is. What's his average? 57.7. And it's not a highlights package. It's over 93 matches, 8,000 runs. 109 catches. This is greatness. This is ridiculous. And then you go to yourself, oh, okay, well, I'll take that. You know what? I'll take that, just that, for a great batsman. He gets into the top 5 batsman conversation with those numbers of all time. But then you go to his bowling and you go, my God, he's got 235 wickets at 34. At an average of 34. So you're getting me 57 runs an innings. And how dare you? You're probably going to take me 2 or 3 6 an innings as well. Come on. We cannot put Joe. Let's not say great. You know what he should say is Stokes is playing well right now. He's had a good year. I don't want to hear great, though. I'm sorry. Every time I hear great, I get triggered. That's what the youngsters are saying now. Get triggered. I quite like saying it myself. Feels good. Warm and fuzzy inside. But Joe Root, shut your pie hole when you talk about greatness, because this is great. Garfield Sobers, Jake's Callis. They average 50 with the bat, and they've got the same bowling numbers as your guy. And both Callis is definitely going to take more wickets than Stokes. I don't think he's going to get to 290. Sobers, he might get to 235, might Ben Stokes. There is no way he's getting to 8,000 test runs, though. There is no way he'll ever average 55. There's no way he'll ever average 57. Jacques Callis has 200 catches. That's 130 catches more than Ben Stokes. We're talking about all round here, people. I don't want you taking, hey, no days off. No days off. I don't want you hiding in the field. Jacques Callis, put me at first slip. Put me at second slip. I don't care. I'm going to catch everything. Bucket hands. And also, I'll tell you what, as a boundary rider, Jacques Callis, incredible arm and tremendous catcher. I'm just saying, if you want to use the word great, I compare you to the top. And by the way, I'm not done. I'm not done. Let's now go to the honorable mentions. I just want to give a few people honorable mentions where Ben Stokes doesn't even get into a conversation with these guys, in my opinion. Imran Khan, 88 games, 3,800 runs at an average of 37. So that's Ben Stokes' numbers. Look at the bowling numbers. His average is one of the greatest cricket has ever seen in any format. 22. Oh, he must have 100 wickets. No. Imran Khan has 362 wickets and was one of the most electrifying bowlers you've ever seen. Could move it both ways and, in fact, could do anything with the ball. An absolute maestro with the ball. One of the greatest bowlers of all time. Hey, give me 38 runs every innings. That's what Ben Stokes gives me. Except Ben Stokes only has an average of what? 33 for bowling? No, thank you. The great Richard Hadley. Right? The great Richard Hadley. One of the greatest bowlers of all time. I don't think there's any debating that. 22 bowling average, 431 wickets. Surely that's all you do? No, not really. You nearly average 30 with the bat. So Ben Stokes isn't world class in either. That's my issue. These people that I'm naming give you a world class element at really 27, right? Richard Hadley, I'm going to take that because you're probably going to rip through their top order and get me 4 wickets in innings. I'd rather have Hadley than Stokes any day. Any day. It's not even close. It's not even close. It's not even a conversation for me. And in South Africa, we don't really venerate our own. Shaun Pollock. Shaun Pollock's one of the greatest test bowlers of all time. In fact, one of the greatest bowlers of all time. He's at least in the top 7 conversation. Greatest bowlers, test bowlers of all time. 23 average, ridiculous. His economy rate was like a minus economy rate, right? Like minus 4 runs somehow. He'd concede every over. Quite incredible. 421 wickets. Hey, Shaun, is that all you do? No, you got a 32 batting average. Who in their right mind is taking Stokes over Shaun Pollock? Who in their right mind is taking Stokes over Richard Hadley, Imran Khan? Just those 3. So I've given you 5. He's not even the best English all-rounder. Sobers, Callis, stop it. They both average about 55 with the bat, and they're as good a bowlers, if not better bowlers, than Ben Stokes. And then these honorable mentions. Imran Khan, 37. So same batting average. And then as a bowler, Ben Stokes, get out of here. Stop it. Stop it with the great thing. Ben Stokes, you've been all right. Congratulations. You've won the test. You won the World Cup. Unbelievable. Folklore against the Australians. We celebrated that in the Ashes. Don't give me great. Don't give me great. Stop that. And Joe Root, you need to go check yourself. Hey, listen, tough time. You just had a baby in COVID. That can't be easy. Maybe that's what's happening with Joe Root. Maybe he's not all there. But I never, ever want to hear anybody again say Ben Stokes is great until I see 5,000 runs at least 45, and he brings his bowling average closer to 28, 29. I can't do it because he's not world-class in either as an all-rounder. So what are you giving me, Ben? I'll be honest. This is why I was never that big on Lance Klusener. I know people loved him, but Lance, what are you giving me, really? All right? I'd love to hear what people think. Maybe I'm too harsh. Men lie, women lie. Numbers, they do not lie. And for me, Ben Stokes, mediocre is harsh. Good. I'd say good, handy. Bet you at number 6 or 7, and you can be my second change bowler. You're not world-class at anything. Folks, let me know what you think. I just thought when I heard that from Joe Root, I was, what? What? Hey, speaking about greatness, coming up after this is genuine greatness. Took South African mountain running to the world. Took South Africa as a destination to the world. It's something we don't thank him enough for. But essentially, before him, we hadn't been able to compete with the Europeans and Americans in the great sport of ultra running. Of course, South Africa has a great history of explorers. He's also a mountain explorer and an expedition guy. One of the greatest to ever do it. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up after this, one of the greatest mountain runners to ever live. Yeah, welcome back. Let us get back to our guest because I think I don't want to waste any time. He's been so gracious with the time. So let me introduce our guest for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, coming out of Sax in Cape Town. At one stage, enjoyed a party. He went on to run up a couple of mountains. Ladies and gentlemen, he's one of the greatest runners South Africa has ever seen. Endurance monster. Right, Red Bull athlete, former Western States champion, FKT for crossing the Great Wall of China, ladies and gentlemen, introducing the one and only Ryan Sands.
Hey, thanks so much. Really great to be on the show.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for joining us. Ryan, man, listen, I always, I used to work a few events and I used to see you and I just used to think, there's no way this guy is who he is and he's this cool. And it just turns out that's who you are all the time. Have you always just been like an uber laid-back guy?
Thanks. Yeah, I think kind of growing up in Cape Town, I guess generally people are pretty chilled. Yeah, I grew up spent a lot of time at the beach doing some surfing growing up. So yeah, I think you need to be pretty cool and or kind of very relaxed when running 100 miles or an ultra distance race.
Yeah. You bloody well better be cool. Listen, what's interesting for me, as I said, am I correct in saying you went to Sax?
Yes, yeah, down in Cape Town or Newlands, yes.
So, coming from those types of schools where your traditional sports and, I went to a boys' school as well, is massive drinking culture. You know how it is with the boys.
Yeah.
For me, it's interesting that you transitioned sort of from that environment and you went to such an individual sport. In school, did you play like cricket, rugby, water polo? Were you part of a team?
Yeah, so I played a lot of rugby at school. I think growing up, I kind of always dreamed or aspired to be like cornet cricket, but I think it was probably about standard 8 that I stopped growing. And I remember playing, I think at UCT, like under 21 Bs and kind of got steamrolled one too many times and realized I had to find something else to do. And kind of stumbled upon running, I guess. Did the Neisner Marathon, and one thing led to another, and here I am today.
So, so wait, you just went and did the Neisner Marathon. So were you like a runner in school? Were you doing cross country or anything, or was it just was it on a whim that you went and did the Neisner Marathon, as people do, Ryan? By the way, you just go and do 42Ks.
Yeah, I guess it was on a whim. At school, as I said, I did play quite a bit of rugby. So I guess playing flank, I was like fairly naturally fit, or just kind of, I guess, from playing lots of rugby, being a flank. I guess you couldn't be too lazy. But at university, as I mentioned, I played a little bit of rugby, and then that came to an end, and enjoyed a good social life. And I always used to go up to the Neisner Oyster Festival to basically have a party. And it was last year at university. Some of my mates that I was studying with, they were going up to do the half marathon. So I thought, like, seeing that I was kind of finishing off my degree now, doing my honors, I had to be a little bit more responsible, at least have a reason for going up to Neisner. So I tried to enter the half marathon, but entries had closed because I left it a bit late. So yeah, I decided full marathon, or like half marathon, full marathon, same. The main thing was that I was going up to Neisner. So I entered the marathon, and I think I had about 4 or 5 weeks to train. So did a couple of runs, and yeah, I think my longest run was about 18 Ks or so. But yeah, I got to the Neisner Marathon and completed it, to my surprise, and I guess a lot of my friends' surprise as well.
That's unbelievable. That is so. What, that was your first, like, anything past sort of 10Ks in terms of running a race? Had you run even a 10K race before?
No, as I said, did like I can't remember. I did 1 or 2 cross country races, but I think that was about 5Ks or so.
It's unbelievable. And so, like, you know, with ultra running, if you haven't done it, I mean, once you go past that 21, it either bites or it doesn't. So for you, did you know then, or was it just like, oh my goodness, I hate my life right now, I'm throwing my shoes away, type of thing from there?
No, actually, like, I really enjoyed the Neisner Marathon. I think just the fulfillment of, like, actually going out and achieving a goal that, like, I didn't actually know if I could do. I didn't do a lot of preparation, and like all my friends like made fun of me and said, "There's no ways you're gonna get like very far." So yeah, I think that's like when the running bug bit, and kind of coming back to Cape Town. I living in Hartbeespoort, the Table Mountain. I joined a running club, and a lot of the guys there were trail runners. Like, spent a lot of time running in the mountains. So from there, I started doing like a fair amount of trail running, and entered a couple of shorter trail races, like anything from 20 to 35 Ks. And then, yeah, it was about 6 months after that I was like, I remember one Sunday I was Googling extreme trail races, and up popped the Four Desert website. Dean Karnazes was doing it, a famous American ultra runner, and I just read his book, and I was like, flip, it'd be pretty cool to do a race with him. And I just started working like a 9 to 5 job. So, like, I don't know, life felt a little bit too real and serious. So I thought, like, what the heck, let me like kind of enter this and go off and do something crazy. So I entered the Gobi Desert race. But it's yeah, I kind of put him.
So Ryan, sorry, before I let you get into that, can I ask you, your microphone's rubbing on your awesome jacket there a little bit, so it gives a bit of feedback. No, it's fine if you don't mind just holding it. Otherwise, your fine followers won't be able to hear you clearly. Yeah, there we go. Oh, now we're in the money. There we go. Hey, perfect. Pivoting. We call that pivoting in the industry. Pivoting. Great pivot. Yeah. Yeah, this is perfect. So now, sorry, you were saying the Dean Karnazes, crazy Greek guy, by the way. You got to look him up. Anyway, Gobi Desert.
Yeah, so like I entered the Gobi Desert race. To be honest, I actually didn't even know where the Gobi Desert was when I first entered it. I didn't realize how far the race was, because it was actually 250 kilometers. So all of this research I had to do kind of once I'd entered. And then, yeah, I guess the whole training journey started, which was pretty hectic. Like, as I mentioned, like I didn't do a lot of preparation going into the Neisner Marathon, but going into the Gobi, I definitely put in a hell of a lot of training and preparation and stuff like that. So yeah, and kind of going into the Gobi Desert Race, I guess that was where my kind of international running and kind of ultra distance racing started.
But now talk me through your time from Neisner Marathon after probably one or two drinks in Neisner to doing a marathon the next day. Tell me something. What's the transition period from I've just done my first marathon with basically never training to I'm going to do 250 Ks? Or how much time has elapsed from you going from a 42K guy to 250K guy in a desert?
Yeah, I get, as I say, I've probably kind of never been I've always been like an all or nothing type of person. I guess it's the same as kind of when I go out and have a party, it's like do it properly or stay at home. So I guess it was the same when it came to kind of entering the Gobi Desert Race. As I say, like I did do the Neisner, did the Neisner Marathon and came back to Cape Town, did a couple of, it was about 2 or 3 trail races here, which the longest one was 35 Ks. And then, as I mentioned, yeah, I just kind of stumbled upon the Four Deserts website and thought, flip, this would be pretty epic. And then I guess it was only once I'd entered that I'd realized, okay, 250 Ks, you're going to be running kind of like 40 to 45 Ks on most days. And then the long stage would be 80 Ks. You got to carry everything on your back. You got rations of food daily. The only things that you actually provided is water on a daily basis, etc., etc. So, like, yeah, I guess it was too late. Once I'd entered, I'd already committed. But yeah, it was a experience.
So what are you carrying in terms of weight, by the way? So let's start at that, and then also, what's the temperatures? Because being in deserts myself once or twice is the cold is extreme cold, and the hot I would imagine is ridiculously hot. So how much do you carry and temperatures? Talk me through that whole malarkey.
Yeah, so basically a backpack weighed anything between 8 to like 14 kgs. I think for the Gobi, I think I was on about 13 kgs when I started. Like kind of the more races I did, the more like I found ways to cut down some weight. I think some guys, I think the lightest I got was down to about 9 kgs excluding water. But some guys literally start and they got like 25 kg backpack. So it's, yeah, like a lot depends on kind of getting down your weight, but then you have to rough it. So like I wouldn't take a sleeping mattress, kind of wouldn't take a toothbrush. There are a lot of things I just cut out. You just have to drop as much as possible. And then going on to temperatures, yeah, as you mentioned, it does vary a lot. Probably the hottest temperature I ran at about 52 or 53 degrees Celsius in the Sahara Desert. And that was like ridiculously hot. Feels like someone's got a paper packet on your head and they're like suffocating you. So that was pretty crazy. And the coldest temperature, obviously, like in the Sahara, it got really cold at night, and the Gobi as well, like kind of freezing, just below freezing. But then the final desert race I did in the 4 Desert series was in Antarctica, and then that was I think it was about minus 17 or 18 the one day, but they said it was like closer to minus 30 with the wind chill. So yeah, it was cool. I got to experience running in some really different places, really different temperatures, and met some pretty cool people along the way.
And made history along the way. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize you were the first human being on planet Earth to win all 4 of the great races, indeed, and win them all. Like you did the Grand Slam, and that must have been something for you, brother.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it was really amazing. I think, like you mentioned, like with Neisner Marathon, saying like after the marathon, did I want to throw away my shoes? And literally training for the Gobi Desert Race, I kind of promised myself after that I was going to throw my running shoes away. I think I did sacrifice a lot going into that race, as you mentioned, kind of just coming out of being a student. I was still enjoying a good social life, and obviously all the training I had to do for the Gobi Desert race kind of involved spending a lot more time in the mountains and a lot less time in the clubs and bars and kind of having drinks with your mates.
Yeah,
but it was pretty surreal, like kind of getting to the Gobi Desert race and kind of running it and things going really well. I was like on this massive high afterwards, but also had this like massive like emptiness, like void inside me, because it's like I'd spent 6 months like focusing and dedicating on this goal, and then all of a sudden like it was over. I was like, hold on, actually maybe I don't want to throw away my shoes. Like I want the next challenge. And I guess that's how it started. And then it was basically after the Gobi, like that went like pretty well, that I decided to enter the Sahara and kind of just kept kind of growing from there. And like as you said before I knew it, I'd managed to complete the 4 desert series.
So, Ryan, as much as the way you speak about it, it's almost like, for me, it's going down to the shops and buying a packet of apples. It's like that simple. But something like this isn't simple for 2 reasons, I'd imagine, right? Is I'm an enthusiastic runner myself. And, going from good runner, right, to competitive runner, then you became a beast. What did you have to do physically differently? So I'd love to know what you did. Talk me through your most grueling training, probably for Gobi. And then mentally, did you have to go and see somebody to transition from Ryan, the party guy, and, good runner, clearly natural athlete, to, because then I think you have to become a different beast now when you have to go and run 250 Ks with a backpack on your back in freezing conditions. Mentally and physically, what did you go through to transition from recreational to the top of the game?
Yeah, I think mentally, like I've like pretty chilled, but I've always been a like naturally really competitive person. I think like especially like I'm quite competitive with myself. Like if I set myself a goal, like I want to do the best I can do. So I think like I do push myself quite hard. And as I mentioned, the training for the Gobi Desert race wasn't intense. As I said, I definitely kind of really stepped things up physically, got a coach, started doing a lot of gym work. Like I remember the one day just kind of running with a heavy backpack on around Table Mountain. I got to the blockhouse in Cape Town, and I was just I just couldn't run any further, and I had to kind of phone my mom and say, please can you come and fetch me from just above UCT. So I was completely blown. So like, it was tough. I'd also just started working kind of a corporate job for a property development company. So it was literally basically running and sleeping and eating. But yeah, I guess the training, I think one of the things potentially, like I'd like to say I've always done well, is really like focusing on the key challenges of each race, like whether it was like kind of extreme temperatures, altitude, like soft sand, and really trying to mimic those conditions. So I remember training for the Gobi Desert race, trying to get used to heat and running up and down like Table Mountain with a like 2 or 3 like jackets on, just to try and like get as hot as possible. And yeah, kind of I remember actually running up Chappies the one day, and this car actually pulling over, and this lady, this like Tani, looking at me, and she used a couple of choice words to me, but basically asked me if I was mad, in Afrikaans, and very choice words. So yeah, I guess it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, Ryan, let's hear it. This is not a kids show, by the way. This is not a kids show.
I was just checking. No, she said something along the lines like,
please go ahead.
It's your fucking mal or something like, and then she still kind of pulled over and quizzed me a bit more about what I was doing. So yeah, no, it's interesting.
It's so good. It's so good, man. That's awesome to hear. Right? Is Ryan, for most people, and this isn't to put you on a pedestal, but it is what it is most of us are never going to be world class at much. But it's incredible to me that you obviously made a decision at some stage, is we all have choices, and you could have gone corporate job and maybe have a little bit more of your social life, catch up with your mates. But I would imagine something like this, the dedication is just insane. So it's awesome that you transition to that. But then here's where it gets interesting for me. Actually, before we move on, please tell me the wildest story of all the races. Do you have a story for us where it's like, I mean, because you were in jungle, you were in Antarctic.
Yeah.
Was there anything where you ever thought, okay, this is the end now? Like, do you have any kind of stories from maybe the jungle or something for us?
Yeah, I guess that there've been a couple of stories. Like obviously, Himalayas was pretty hectic. Even last year when I was in Namibia doing a run along the Skeleton Coast. But I guess the jungle marathon I did, it's called the Jungle Marathon, but it's a 230 kilometer stage race through the jungle. And yeah, I kind of got myself into that, not really, again, knowing what it was about until I got there. And we started off, they do like a race briefing, but the Brazilian army came in to give us the race briefing. And literally it was half a day that they kind of told us about like all the dangers in the jungle. And basically, like everything in the jungle can kill you. Like if you grab the wrong tree and you get scraped by the wrong bark, that can kill you, like the hectic snakes and stuff like that. And then a couple of people like started asking like, what's the evacuation plan? Like, how do we get out? And the Brazilian army guys just laughed. It's like if something goes wrong, that's you. Just that race pretty nervous. Like it was gnarly. Like at night we slept in hammocks. But I remember, like, I actually, like, the first night, like, I panicked. Like, I got up, I wanted to take a pee, and there were just all these eyes, like, looking at me. It was just, like, kind of just, like, just hundreds of pairs of eyes staring at me. And I was like, flip, there's no ways I'm getting out of my hammock. So I just obviously had to hold my pee in that night. So the other nights I used to take a water bottle to bed with me to pee in. If I did need to go to the toilet. And even looking down at the floor, like with the headlamp, you'll just see like these highways of like ants, but they weren't ants. They were like the size of like rats. They were just like, they were massive. And then just like running through the jungle, and there was a film crew there, and they had underwater cameras. This was back in 2009. So it was still like before GoPros and stuff like that. But, like, we would have to do a lot of river crossings. Like we would actually have to swim across the rivers with our backpacks on. And they showed us videos afterwards, and literally like all these came in rivers and just all sorts of things. And we were kind of just swimming right over them. I saw so many snakes. Like I thought we had a good amount of snakes on Table Mountain, but nothing like we got in the jungle. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then also there was actually one French guy, like kind of slightly different story, but French guy, and he was quite like this macho guy. Like started off quite fast, but started fading through the days, and then ended up dropping out. And I was like quite surprised why he dropped out, and got chatting at the awards banquet afterwards. I had like one or two years cleaned up a little bit, and like I was like, why did you drop out of the race? Like you were looking pretty strong. And he was like, no, in his French accent. Sorry, my French accent is not great, but he basically said in a nutshell that he was a male stripper, and he had a big show booked when he got back to France, and he didn't want any chafing of his bits, and he was starting to chafe. So he had to kind of, business comes first. So he had to pull out of the race. So yeah, it's some interesting stories along the way.
There's no ways anybody's ever stopped a sports event because they got to go stripping. They got to go show their money maker. That is one of the greatest stories I've ever heard in my life. That's insane, dude. So you were running past like boa constrictors and with strippers. Oh my God, what a story.
Yeah, no, it was hectic. I was really glad to
insane.
get out the jungle alive. It was crazy.
Jesus, that is wild. Listen, so obviously that happens now, and then we obviously now it's starting to transition. Naturally, now your name's out there, you know, and the natural thing is, I think when you came up in and around then was that time when this Kilian Jornet guy. For me, Anton Krupicka, they just made Unbreakable, things like Western States were sort of coming into our vision as South Africans, because we're pretty hardcore people, right? Then you transition to, hey, let me pop over to Leadville. Let me go show these Americans what's up. I mean, that was what, your second time, hey, when you won it at Leadville?
Yeah, it was actually first time in Leadville. So beginners luck.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So now, but until that stage, like when you were transitioning from, ultra long distance stage races, were you sort of comfortable amongst those elites? Because it was always like, I'm sure you'd get to the lines and you'd know the elite Americans. You can tell who Tim Olsen and Krupicka is, and Killian and all these guys. Were you comfortable, or how did you feel the first time you went to Leadville and ran against internationals?
Yeah, I guess it was quite like different, as you said, like almost. I kind of feel like kind of end of 2010, the sport changed to a large degree. Like the sport was quite segmented. Like a lot of guys would race, and like the Americans would stick to America and race their races. The Europeans would be in Europe. There were like kind of the multi-day events were kind of really popular. And then it seemed like towards the end of 2010, kind of, everyone started racing each other, and like the biggest, like, and the most competitive races were definitely the 1 day 100K, 100-miler races or 50-miler races. So, my first kind of experience to racing abroad was like, or not racing abroad, but kind of moving out of the multi-day events was in 2011. Raced in Australia and then Europe, and it was a tough transition initially, and then going across to Leadville, managed to get it right there. But I guess it was quite an intimidating, a completely new scene, but I think it was new for everyone, and quite an interesting period. I think from like about end of 2010 to about 2012, that was like kind of the first time that guys are really starting to race each other, like kind of intercontinents. Like, as I say before, it was always like the main American race was Leadville or Western States, and America, I mean, and Europe was UTMB or kind of the likes. But like, since then, guys have started to cross over.
And for a lot of us in life, is when you achieve something, a lot of us are really bad at this, and I'd have to include myself in life before, is once you achieve something that massive, because for those who don't know, Leadville is one of the races. You win that, you're a made man, as the mafia would say. What is it that instead of going, okay, I'm going to rest on my laurels, you said you're quite competitive with yourself, but after that, did you set another goal, or what was it that you thought, okay, I'm gonna really bite down here? Because I almost feel like after Leadville, then we started seeing the real Ryan Sands, because then you became a badass mother after that. I'm not saying you weren't before. You'd kind of proven that. But then I feel like instead of going soft and going, okay, my laurels, look how much I've done, I'm the golden boy, which you were at the time, we can't deny it. But it felt like you almost... You bit down, you chomped down, and you said, I'm going to make this thing real. Was that a team decision? Were the people around you, or was it just you that said, okay, wow, I want to be one of the greatest at this thing, not just good ones?
Yeah, I think it's probably just like a personal decision. Like, as I say, like, I think something that's led to my success is being passionate and really enjoying what I do. And I guess also constantly mixing things up. Like you mentioned, like, I guess potentially after winning 4 Desert Series, I could have maybe just stuck to doing that. Like, I kind of knew how it rolled. I was like pretty good at it, and instead kind of going and doing something new, like running in more kind of mountain terrain, was very different. So I think after Leadville, or the win at Leadville, gave me a lot of confidence, and then 2012 had quite a really good season, and I think from there it just snowballed. And I guess after Leadville, like I kind of really wanted to have a good race at Western States, that had really grown in stature, that and UTMB. So I think like since then it's been those two races that have kind of been the pinnacle races, like 100-milers, and then using some of the global 100K races, like the kind of Hong Kong 100 or Ultra Trail Australia, or Gran Canaria to build up to those. And yeah, so I guess kind of obviously Western States took me a while. Like in 2012 when I ran it for the first time, had a for me it's still the best 100-miler I've personally run. Just everything went really well. Just Timothy Olsen just was absolutely on fire that day. So yeah, it took me 2017 that I finally got it right.
Hold on. Let's not go. Hold on. I don't want you going over that because a lot of people don't know what you're talking about there. So, because you want to try and stay humble, I'm going to take you back there. Folks, what happened in that race was the first sub 15 ever was run by Tim Olsen. The man you're looking at there ran the second fastest time ever run at Western States and came second. Ryan, that must have been like a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, I don't know, it's obviously, I must say coming second and fourth sucks. Like kind of second is like the first loser and fourth is like one step off the podium. So it was tough, but I also felt like I did as I say, like I had a great run and super stoked for Timothy Olsen, like one of the nicest guys in the sport. Like by him winning that, it really kind of put him on the map. So like looking back now, I wouldn't have changed anything. Like I said, I did finally win Western States in 2017, and it was such a journey to get there. I think it made it that much more worthwhile. Like if I'd got it right in 2012, then I wouldn't have had all those other experiences.
Before we get to 20, because I watched, by the way, I was on Twitter all night, by the way, because there was a whole other story happening with an American runner, but I want to get to that because Ryan, I remember there was a time, I must just get my years right, but somewhere between 13 and sort of 16, I was like, where's Ryan Sands? Like, I've been following this guy. What's happening to this guy? I'm seeing, wait, this guy's dropping out of races. We don't really know what's happening. And, with a lot of people and a lot of sportsmen and just people in general, so you're human, is generally when things don't go right for us in life, is the first thing we do is make excuses. And this is easy for me to say in hindsight, but at the time it was like, and I'm sure you were hearing a lot of speculation, Ryan's fallen off or whatever was going around. I work in the space. So I was hearing all the jibber jabber about, Ryan's this and the rumors. But it turns out you had a serious problem. And can you just give me those years? Because there was a time when it was like, okay, has Ryan stopped running? When was that and what was going on?
Yeah, so that was back in, or kind of 2014 was the first year of the Ultra Trail World Tour. And I had a great year, just did way too much, did like the whole Ultra Trail World Tour, and then already like it had like too many races. So I ended up second overall on the Ultra Trail World Tour behind Francois Dehern. But
hey, no big deal. No big deal. Second best trail runner in the world. Hey, no big deal. Yeah, let's go on, Ryan. No big deal.
But then I did like way too much racing, and then also still did the Drakensberg Traverse, and actually even threw in another like Racing the Planet race, a multi-day towards the end in Madagascar. It was just a crazy year. And 2015, it just came back to bite me. I had glandular fever, but like kind of early stages of overtraining really like took it out of me. And I guess being competitive and being an athlete, I kept thinking I was recovered, but I kept trying to like kind of force it, and just, as I say, like lined up at UTMB, just thought I was good to go, and kind of had to drop out. Actually, that was also 2015, also lined up at Western States, made that a big focus, and literally the day before the race got a stomach bug. I guess just being unlucky. To be honest, I think my whole immune system was pretty shot, because obviously I'd been like checking my bloods and stuff throughout the year, and just my kind of blood work wasn't like what it normally is. So I was definitely pretty run down. It was only kind of I guess kind of second half of 2016 that kind of started to turn things around, and then 2017 had the good run at Western States. So it was a frustrating period, like a lot of self-doubt. I remember dropping out of UTMB and just wondering, like, actually I stopped enjoying running, to be honest. I just found I was like putting too much pressure on myself, and like you said, like I thought like is this the end now? Like you hear so many stories, and I know so many guys that like only last for 2 or 3 years, and then they kind of completely kind of get overtraining syndrome, and that's the end of them. And I think back then I'd already been running for like 10 years. So I was like, geez, maybe this is the end. I'd had a good innings. But yeah, luckily kind of, yeah, managed to turn things around, and kind of towards the end of 2016 started like feeling really confident again, and 2017 had a good year. So yeah, I guess it's just about sticking it out and trying to figure out what's wrong.
And at your lowest, do you have a team? I know you're obviously a married man. Ladies, sorry, he's taken.
Yeah.
So at your lowest, was there a team around you, Ryan, or was there just something in you that said, I'm not going out like this?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've got an amazing team, like family, obviously my wife Vanessa, and friends, and like really, yeah, kind of helped me. But I think it was a personal decision, as it's to say, I kind of lost the passion for running, and I actually decided to like stop following a training plan, and just like said, I'm not actually. I remember my Salomon international team manager said, like, I was teams like, oh, maybe I want to go do this race, and he was like, no, just forget about any racing, just kind of find your happy place again, and then come talk to me when you found that. And I think that was pretty cool in terms of I literally just said, cool. I went home back to Cape Town, didn't do much for 2 weeks, and then slowly but surely started running again. And if like I'd go out the door and go for a run, and after 10 minutes I was over it, so I'd kind of go back home and just like really let myself get into it. And then, but like before I knew it, I was like, cool, like this feels better. And then 2016 kind of lined up a few races. But kind of, I guess, kind of that first race back in 2016 was the Tarawera in New Zealand. And I remember also like the morning before the race, I woke up, but then all of a sudden I just started feeling lightheaded and not great. And I was like, you're kidding me. I can't be like, something can't be off. This can't be right. And I think it was just a bit of nerves and stuff like that. And yeah, I ended up having a good run. But yeah, it was definitely quite like tough to come back and just to kind of back yourself that you can do it again.
That is awesome, dude. I love those stories because that is so cool. Especially, hey, mountain running is a brutal sport. People think other sports are brutal. This is brutal. This isn't football where there's 10 managers, 10 coaches. You got your teammates in a locker room. The beauty of mountain running for me, and Ryan, you can express your opinion, is it's you and the elements, right? Is you can give up whenever you want. The mountain's never going to give up. So for you to make that call, it sounds like you got back to that essence of why you started, man. I love that.
Yeah, I think, like, as I say, as you mentioned, I love that about running. And also I think what intrigued me about the sport is, as you say, just that direct interaction with nature. And it's something very similar. Like, I almost compare trail running to surfing. You're kind of out there, like in the wild and in the open, and you really get to kind of zone out or really just focus on the current. But like having said that, I think that's why also, like, I've always enjoyed doing FKT projects or kind of just micro adventures and getting out there. And some of my best memories are just going out and doing something in the mountains, like just doing a long run with friends in the mountains, or trying to link up a whole bunch of peaks, or just doing something that I guess from like a racing point of view doesn't really count, but it's just like those days are like most memorable, when it's just, I think that's what I love about the sport, that it's not actually, at the end of the day, a lot of people, like most people, don't really care if you kind of come first or last, or like however you do. It's like pretty random, but I think it's just about you and like pushing yourself. And that's why I like to say, like, I love like FKT projects, just going out there, just being on my own and just pushing myself, not like you and having to tell many people what you're doing, just like setting yourself a goal and just trying to see if you can achieve it.
Yeah, hey, while we're talking about the FKT stuff, we'll get back to that little Western States thing that you went and did and collected the gold there. Let's get back to two little park runs that you did. One known as the Drakensberg Grand Traverse, so that's a tiny little thing you did. And then there's a little famous thing called the Great Wall of China. You did a little stroll across there. Let's start in the Drakensberg, right? When you guys, you did that with Reino, I believe.
Yes.
You guys hold the record. Yeah. And Yeah, go ahead. I mean, just tell us about that. Drakensberg Grand Traverse, by the way, people, I'm kidding. It takes normal human beings anywhere between 8 and 15 days to do it. Ryan, tell us about your experience doing the Grand Traverse FKT record.
Yeah, so did that with Rainer Crystal. That was back in 2014. I mentioned when I had that crazy year. But yeah, that was kind of really surreal and pretty crazy. It was like I'd done a lot of racing around the world, but never really spent too much time in the Drakensberg Mountains. And I think when you're up there, you realize just how spectacular and remote they are. Like literally, you can run for days on end and not see anyone. And like the weather closes in up there, you had serious risk. Like I remember the first day or going up there, I think we were doing a recce in October, and I was like, cool, I just come back from doing a big race overseas, like kind of this will be cool, taking kind of super lightweight racing gear and going up there. And we camped up there the night, and waking up the next morning, like so cold, I had every layer I had on me, could hardly like move and open the tent, and it was just like snow and ice everywhere. And we literally had to kind of keep going through this for 2 or 3 days. It was like a proper eye opener for me that like never kind of, or it was just like really humbling to kind of realize kind of, I guess, how insignificant we are. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, like running that, and definitely something that will stick with me for a long time. And I guess from there, kind of, that's where I built up a really good friendship with Reino, and we did a number of like other projects after that. But then, yeah, finally got to the Great Himalaya Trail, which was in 2018 when we, ran from ran across the Nepalese Himalayan mountains. So from one side of Nepal to the other. I think it was about 1,500 or 1,600 kilometers with about 80 or 90,000 meters of vert. So yeah, that was definitely the craziest thing I've done, and the most I'd say kind of like that has probably like been a career, especially when it comes to and doing that. That was always something I looked up, like wanted to do one day when I was big. And I think it was after the Western States win, spoke to Rain, and I was like, cool, like if we don't do this now, I guess we're never going to do it. And yeah, we started planning, and made it happen.
How long did the Great Himalaya Trail take you? Because I think people who don't know about it, Ryan, is you really go through about, I think it's between 4 and 6 ecosystems just on one expedition. How long did that take you? Because I know there you go from snow conditions to 2 days later, it's 60 degrees. It's, I've done quite a bit of research on it. So how long did that take you? And what's the most gruesome story? Because I know there was a stage where Reino was in some serious trouble. So I'd love to hear about that. How long did it take you? And what was the moment where you thought, we might have to give up here?
Yeah, so it took us 24 days.
You did 1,100 kilometers in 24 days.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, geez. Yeah, it was. Yeah, like just under 1,600 kilometers in 24 days. So it was, a lot of time on our feet, not a lot of sleeping. Like some of the passes were like we were going over 5,500 meter passes. Even getting into the start, it was like quite a long trek in for a couple of days. Like it was like 70 or 80 k's just to get into the start. And that had a really late winter in Nepal, so we had a lot more ice and snow, and navigation was really tricky. And luckily for me, Rainer's a great navigator, so kind of there was obviously a lot of pressure on him to get that right. And it was life and death, because if you navigate and you end up in the wrong valley, like that's you. Like there's not a lot, especially the first half of the traverse, there wasn't like a lot of people out there. Was really high up. You'd go into villages, but I remember the Dolfa region, we like at times, like looking back now, we got really, really lucky in terms of we were going and like we obviously did a lot of like research and looked at different, like where the various villages would be and where we could potentially sleep. But the Dolfa region, because of the colder weather, a lot had changed, and we didn't see any villages for like, I think it was like a day and a half or something crazy. And And then like as it was getting dark one night, we saw some like smoke coming out of this little building in the distance. Actually turned out it was like a monk was living out there. Or it was like a monastery, but like fairly small. And we were like knocking on the door, and this guy came out, and we were like trying to make sign language, like, can we have something to eat? Can we come inside? And he just looked at us and closed the door, and we were like, flip, this is it. Like, because like it was getting really cold. Like up there at night, it gets like minus 20. We didn't have like tents or yeah, we wouldn't have been able to get through the night. And luckily, like about 10-15 minutes later, the monk came back up and invited us like in. And it was weird. Like we went in, and you have to walk like down into the basement, like 2 levels. But like you walk in and you just see all this meat hang on the wall, like roadkill. And like I looked at Rain, and you start to think like, flip, are we about to get sacrificed here? You keep walking down, and then like he opened this door, and like all the smoke just kind of came like wafting out, and then he came into this little room where he was sitting with his wife and 2 kids. And yeah, it was pretty like surreal to spend the night there. Like they just like made us food. Like could see he was like a very proud dad. So I had my iPhone, so like we couldn't like communicate at all. And so like I showed him like a picture of my son Max on my phone. I kind of gave him the phone to look, but he actually took my phone and went through like every single photo on my phone for like an hour and a half, just sitting there. Luckily all my photos were kosher, but yeah, it was just a really surreal experience. And then actually they like kind of gave us, they kind of slept in the lounge area and let us sleep in their beds that night. Like gave us loads of food to take on our way, and kind of sent us off the next morning. It was just like the hospitality of the local like Nepalese people was just incredible. And like we had a number of experiences like that along the way. But yeah, it was a few days after that Reino got quite bad frostbite. Which was like really hectic, because like kind of knew that if we went to like if he had to go to like any of the like local hospitals, anything like that in any of the regions, they would have just kind of sent him straight back to Kathmandu and kind of made him come back to South Africa. So it was like we're trying to avoid going like any hospitals or getting any treatment or help, but at the same time he was definitely deteriorating. It also picked up a little bit of an injury in his knee, and it's tough because Reina's definitely like, there's one guy I'm going to go to war with. It's Reina is definitely the most headstrong person I've ever met. Like his pain threshold is just another level, just how he can keep pushing himself. So towards the end, I got really worried. It was just like like you just don't want someone to like push themselves like until they kind of can't, like kind of till they pass that point of no return. So that was quite hectic to navigate. And then even we had about 2 or 3 days to go, and we kind of realized like, cool, we're hopefully going to make this now. There's like we've dropped down into the lower areas. We're going through a lot more villages. And then one night we actually got chased by some local guys through the mountains, which was really scary. And I think we got really lucky. They like kind of ambushed us twice. And we just like took off just running blind down a mountain. And luckily, by some miracle, managed to get like after running for like 3Ks through the bushes and just like falling, and we managed to get onto like a gravel road and run down to like a military outpost, and kind of get some help there. But it was a proper experience. This is so many stories. I think I could keep you here all night. But I guess it's like I wouldn't rush back and do that in a hurry again. But I think it's those experiences are the ones like that I'm gonna remember for a long time, and just to be able to kind of do like achieve something that I really wanted to achieve for a long time was pretty cool.
It's unbelievable. So tell me something, in a life and death situation like that, because most of us, quite frankly, will never be in that situation. Who makes the call? So Reino's in big trouble. You know he's headstrong, right? You're fit enough. You're good to go. In that call, I mean, this is almost like military conditions, right? Is Who makes the call there? Do you leave it in Reino's hands? Or because obviously, you've got to say, hey, nobody wants to be the guy that lives and has to tell a story that I didn't pull the plug. Who makes the call in that life and death situation?
Yeah, it's a tough one because like I remember like the one day where it did get really bad. I kind of Reino was just like kept pushing and pushing, and I could see he was just going to keep pushing, and then he kind of said, just give me 3 hours to kind of sort myself out of it. If I'm not right, we can stop. Because I was like, geez, dude, like I don't want your mate. I don't, as you say, you don't want someone to pass away at the end of the day. It's just a run. It's not that important in the bigger picture. But I was quite lucky as well. Like a guy that's done a lot of documentaries on me, Dean Leslie, and I was actually at school with. He was out there doing a documentary, but they could only like again they've got stories for days as well, because they had to literally try and they would see us every like 5 or 6 days, but they would have to get like helicopter rides, like hike in and stuff, and it was crazy. But luckily it was towards the end, and I actually had some cell phone signals, so I could actually get hold of Dean, and I was like, phone Dean, and I was like what I do here, like obviously like want to keep going, but I also didn't know if I was in the right headspace to make any decisions then as well. Like I'd also been out there for 20 days. Like it's pretty surreal, like for like 24 days when your only focus is just to kind of keep covering ground, like nothing else matters. It's like, so it's like, yeah, you kind of, I guess you lose touch with reality and what is important. So I was almost like kind of chatting to him to try and also figure out like what we do. But yeah, like kind of long story short, I kind of gave Reino 3 hours break. We had a quick power nap, and after that he kind of turned things around and was able to keep going. So yeah, like I said, I still don't know like how he kind of managed to keep going. I think like I'd like to think I'm headstrong, but geez, I would have battled to keep going.
That's out of hand. So So I mean, listen, we could keep you here for Joe Rogan length podcast. We could honestly turn this into a test match. Ryan, you're unbelievable. I'm listening to these stories.
Thanks.
I mean, you should have been eaten by a python in the jungle. You should have been killed by mountain herdsmen, probably in China. What was it? Frostbite that Reino had, and you survived all of this.
Yeah.
Was it? Is a Himalayan trade is what 1600 Ks?
Yeah, 1600 Ks. So.
Oh, sorry, I sold you short 500 Ks there, and you survived that. It's absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane. Listen, Ryan, before I let you go, let's finish off on, I think maybe as a fan, you can speak for yourself, and then we'll take some questions if that's all right. Is Western States, right? Is for me as a fan, that's the crowning moment, because for the Americans, that's the one. As much as I know they like the other ones. I think it's the original one. For those who don't know, 100 Mile Sports, it's the one that started the craze, right? So when you went and won that, is it your crowning moment? And talk us through that race. A guy called Jim Wormsley, folks, who now holds the record, was on an absolute tear that day. He went out insanely fast, even in the snow. Ryan, maybe talk us through that day, and we can just finish off with your kind of recapping that day for us. Is it the greatest day of your life? And you can recap it for us. Or racing life. I know you have a child, so you got to say that. Like just in case sponsors are listening, your wedding. Yes, let me get it out the way. He loves his wife. His wedding was his greatest day, and having a child. Okay, Ryan, let's put that aside.
Oh, you got it out the way.
There we go. Let's talk about. Hey, let's get serious here. Gareth just fell.
Oops.
That's okay.
Cool. Yeah, it was definitely like, for me, like from a sporting point of view, or just as I mentioned, like I think doing so well in 2012, I kind of thought like flip, I'd kind of be able to get one better and potentially win it in 2013 or 2014, and that wasn't the case. And it was quite a long journey, and as you mentioned, had that really low patch where I kind of thought maybe that was the end of my career. Went to Western States then in 2015, had a stomach bug, and then I was just like, flip, let me just kind of move on. Maybe Western States is not for me. And then missed the race in 2016. And I think not being there in 2016 made me realize how much the race meant to me. And got back there in 2017, and obviously there was the hype about Jim, the new kid on the block, and he was talking about running ridiculously fast times. I kind of knew it was going to be a really hot year, and also with the really it was a really hot year, but they also had a lot of snow. So the first 30 miles were just like stupid amounts of snow. You were just pinholing through snow the whole way. It was about times where generally like an hour slower than normal years for the first 30 miles. So everyone was like way back, except for Jim. He just went out on like a ridiculous pace.
He's a madman.
He was, yeah, he went out on course record pace, and like on my second position quite early on, like was feeling good again. And I realized like one or two things were going to happen with Jim. He was going to either kind of like run a ridiculously fast race, or kind of things were going to kind of blow up a little bit for him. And I was just getting feedback. I remember the second place where I could have crew. The guys were talking that Jim Wormsley was sitting down on a chair at the aid station. I was thinking it's a little bit too early to be tired. You still got a long way to go. And then as the race progressed, like got reports, he downed a bottle of something, but he threw it straight up. And I was like, again, that's not great. But he kept like making ground on me. So he was just like kept pushing and pushing. And then it was about the 100K mark. I heard he was like an hour ahead of me. And I was like, geez, okay, like, let me just like, again, like I'm just running my race. And then it's about 10Ks later, got to another aid station. They were like, yo, Jim's 40 minutes ahead of you. And I was like, geez, that's like 20 minutes. Like I've made a lot of ground. Something must be going wrong. And then got to the next aid station. They were like, Jim's just left the aid station. Or it was like 2 aid stations later, but Jim's just, I was like, how's that possible? Like, I thought maybe they just made a mistake, and I kept running. And then like, shows, it's like about 2Ks out of the aid station, I saw kind of Jim like further up the trail, just kind of walking, just kind of completely out of it. He had blown up properly, and I passed him. And it was actually quite surreal, because it was when in 2012, like I had a bit of a backwards and forwards with Timothy Olsen when I came second. And it was that exact place where I had that backwards and forwards, or it was the exact place where Timothy Olsen actually passed me in 2012 to take the lead and kind of keep
Wow.
going, is where kind of I passed Jim around there, and I was just like, flip, I've got to stick to this time. I can't get second again. So it was from there I really pushed it. It's a hard part of the race, and I remember getting to the river crossing about 30Ks to go, just being completely out of it. And luckily, allowed to have paces. I just had a pacer for the final 20 odd Ks or so, and that was Rainer. I think it was great to have someone like Rainer who knows me that well, and who could just like really push me, like how I needed to push myself to see that one through. So yeah, it was a really surreal moment, actually, like having my wife there, my son was there, Max, actually my mom was there as well. It was just really, really cool. And like you say, like it's definitely for me, if one day stands out the most, it was definitely it was that. So it was really, really special.
Oh man, that is awesome. And the thing about Western States, right, is those canyons. It must get boiling hot down in there.
Yeah, it gets into like the mid 50s. It's just like ridiculous. It's also just it's just this like dry heat. It's weird. Like you can be running along and it's not that, or it's hot, but it's not too bad. And then you just run into this hot pocket of air, and it's just like someone's like smashing you in the face with a baseball bat. It's just like completely, just like knocks you back. So yeah, it is a crazy race.
And unlike Blockhouse, you couldn't just phone your mom to bring you a Woolworths sandwich to come pick you up.
No, exactly. No, there's not the cool thing with actually, like when you say Western, like it's amazing, like the different races, like Western States is like you don't run with a backpack and then you run with handheld bottles, and like there are aid stations every 10 kilometers. So that's really cool. Like, and then the aid stations are really well stocked. So I couldn't phone my mom to get a ham sandwich. There were the aid stations are quite nicely stocked, and there's a lot of like support crew and stuff. it's just a really amazing race, just like community, and just kind of the whole vibe around the race just makes it super super special.
That's phenomenal, dude. I could not be happier for you. And we hadn't. I mean, we'd kind of met at races before, we'd spoken in passing, but everyone said you're a great guy. So I could not be happier for you. And as a South African, to be honest with you, I'm so grateful that in a sport where we weren't prevalent, you've put us on the world map. You're the guy, and not in a braggy way, but someone has to be first, and you were first. You put us on the world map. And that comes with something, man. South Africa is a unique country. We have a sordid past, and for you to, whether you wanted it or not, listen, it's on your shoulders. People like myself put it on your shoulders and say. And in hindsight, I'm grateful that people like yourselves. It's you pioneered something. It's like you blazed the trail. Where for South Africans, it's like, oh, it's okay for us to go and compete on the world stage. There's our guy. He's from Cape Town. He sounds like me. He looks like me. So, dude, I'm a huge fan of everything you've done, and I'd imagine there's much more to come. In the book, Ryan.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. No, for sure. Let's talk about the book a little bit, and then we'll get some questions. Tell us about the book. Where can we get it, and how else can we support you in some of the endeavors you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, thanks. So I wrote the book Trailblazer. And in South Africa, you can get it at most major bookstores, or I guess obviously currently, everyone's buying things online, so on Take-A-Lot or the various like online bookstores. So busy kind of with that. And as I say, with me, like, I've been really grateful to be able to compete abroad and do some cool stuff. But I think it's important to give back, and I'm really proudly South African. It's cool to kind of try and grow like our local community. And for me, it's more than just kind of trail running. It's kind of getting people into the mountains and the outdoors. So I started a concept, 13 Peaks, kind of a micro adventure around the Cape Peninsula where you tag a whole bunch of peaks over 100 Ks. So been getting people out to do that. It's been really really cool, and just I guess kind of being able to give something back is I think probably is more rewarding.
Yeah. 13 Peaks is like a park run for lunatics, really, if people want to know what that is. So if you are unwell, that is awesome. So where do we check out 13 Peaks? We'll put every single detail you talk about. We'll put in the description. We'll put the book in the description, and then 13 Peaks. Where do we check it out?
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so 13 Peaks, it's the number like 13, so 13peaks.co.za. And there is a
awesome
website, and you can get all the details on there.
Amazing, because we get a lot of foreign guests as well who these fitness fanatics, they come, and I know, I'm sure they'll hit you up, but sometimes they don't really know where to go, what to do. So this is important for them, and we must push this as a tourism thing as well. Is we get these great runners, they come here and they think, oh, I'm just going to go up Platteklip because that's all they know, right? Let's get this out there. So thank you so much for that as well, Ryan. This is awesome, dude.
Thank you. No, it's been really cool.
Yeah, and what's next? What's next, brother? 13 Peaks, I understand you're giving back, but I mean, an animal like yourself, you can only keep the lion caged for so long.
Obviously, it's quite tough with the current situation. Like, I was hoping to get in one or two races towards the end of the year, but I think being completely realistic, like on a daily basis, you're seeing more and more events being cancelled. So
sure,
I don't see, unfortunately, being able to race this year. Like, I had a big focus wanting to get UTMB Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. That's my monkey kind of when racing. That's one monkey I've still got in my back, or like I want to do well there. So I'll put a big focus into that for next year. But this year, from a racing point of view, it's like not looking super prosperous. But I'm doing a project with Red Bull along the Skeleton Coast. So hoping to get back there before the end of the year. But again, I guess with kind of, obviously Namibia is, you can drive there, but it is still an international border. So just playing that by ear. But I guess having said that, like also not really being allowed to leave kind of the Western Cape, potentially eyeing out maybe doing like 13 Peaks again myself. I think it's just really, really cool. And I've kind of created a number of badges you can get from doing it, like the different formats. So I'm keen to see if I can maybe run a little bit faster, or just go and have a good day out in the mountains. So it's maybe doing 13 peaks, and then just with some mates lining up a couple of local like micro adventures. I think like we discussed, like the rare thing about trail running, obviously it's nice to compete and be out there, but it's also the main thing is at least we're allowed to run in the mountains again. So just try and focus on that.
Hey, I saw you run like 100-kilometer thing through your house. Nice house, by the way, but also like this is how much this man loves running. I saw that. He's going around, like, is that just driving Vanessa crazy? She just wants to hit you in the face with a baseball bat.
Exactly. No, that was I guess a bit of a stupid idea, but no, it was I guess during in the height of lockdown. Like mentally it was actually a lot tougher than I thought, a much slower going. Just can get into any rhythm. But I guess at least I can say I've run 100 miles around my house. Definitely look at my garden and house in a different light now.
Ryan Sands, you're the best, brother. Let's take some questions and then I'll let you go before Vanessa strangles all of us. Dave, what you got for the great man? Simple Simon Hummel says, Ryan, before retirement, will we see you smashing the Barkley Marathon? And maybe, Ryan, for some people don't know what that is, so maybe you could explain what the Barkley Marathon is for those who don't.
Yeah, so the Barkley Marathon, I'm trying to think of what's it called? I think it's like Barkley Marathon. They call it like it's the mum who eats her young or something like that. It's like a crazy...
Exactly.
It's a crazy...
that lunatic.
So Lars, the guy who started, it's in Tennessee. It was like based on this famous prison, like escape from prison there, and like no one could escape the prison. It was just too hectic. But he created a 100-mile race there, but it's all self-navigational. Like it's really hard to get in terms of like to actually know how to enter. He just has a window period, like when he started, like you'll go, like it'll be like, cool, we're going to have the race over these 3 or 4 days, but you need to be here on the Friday, and he starts a race when he decides to. So he blows like a big horn, and he gives you an hour to kind of get ready to start the race. And then when he lights his cigarette, that's when the race starts. But it's really tough running. Like navigation is really tricky. Like I know guys that have done it, and it's not a very pleasant race. To be honest, I'd rather go and do a crazy adventure. But having said all of that, I guess never say never. But currently, it's not. It hasn't kind of appealed to me that much. I know Reino is kind of semi keen, so maybe I'll talk into it.
All right, listen, that Barkley Marathon, that is no joke. Go on YouTube that, people. That is no joke. Giraffe Creative says, Ryan, what's your favorite local trail?
Yeah, I guess the Table Mountain. There are obviously a number of trails in Table Mountain, but I'd probably be biased and say Table Mountain. But I think something like the kind of Blackburn Ravine or the trails above Chapman's Peak are quite spectacular. But I think the whole of Table Mountain, even though the other day went out to a place called Kleinmond, just outside of Cape Town, actually where African X used to start a few years back, and just some of the trails out there I was just like absolutely blown away by. So yeah, I think there are a number of trails. I think I really, like, for me, growing up at the ocean, I love to be able to kind of run on a trail, but to be able to see the sea or the ocean, or go for a swim there afterwards. I think like the trails in Europe or kind of like the Rockies or kind of like are really amazing, but it definitely feels like very foreign, because like when you're out there, like it's just mountains, where I really love being able to see the ocean as well.
Couldn't agree more. Dave, what's next? Two Ocean says, Ryan, from another Ryan who runs ultras, what's your best recovery food?
She's best recovery food. Yeah, I guess like after like a long run, I guess kind of trying to like eat what you feel like you're craving. So definitely kind of getting in the proteins and the fats. But I'd say like a good thing is bone broth. I found works really, really well. And it's really, really good just for like your stomach lining, and also all your muscles and joints. It's got like a lot of the essential fats and stuff like that. And so I'd say if you're looking for, like, I don't really use that many like kind of recovery products as such anymore. I'd rather use bone broth. I find it kind of works a lot better for me.
Who knew the British working class in the dark ages had it right, huh? They should have started running 100 milers then. Bone broth.
Exactly.
Hey, world class runner Ryan Sands says bone broth. Love it. Quinny 12 says, what's the toll on your body after something like Leadville or Western States?
Yeah, you obviously. I remember Leadville smashed me completely. Like, it was my first 100 miler. It was kind of. I remember going to the prize ceremony the next day, and literally, like, I could hardly walk. I remember kind of walking, but I could like hardly get up onto the podium. And then, like, once you're up there, like, I was just like petrified the whole time. Like, how was I gonna be able to get down from there in front of everyone? Because like my legs were just destroyed for about 3 weeks afterwards. Like I felt someone had like kind of. I felt like I had glass shards in my quads. But I guess the more like 100 milers you do and stuff, you generally like I guess like you kind of fairly sore for the week afterwards, and then kind of take probably 2 weeks to 3 weeks to kind of fully recover. Probably a little bit longer, but you're kind of back to normal after about 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Jeez, yeah, that is brutal. 160 Ks up a mountain. Wow. Dave, we got anything else for the great man? All right, we'll take one more, Ryan, and then we will let you go. Chad Cooper says, Ryan, what's the darkest place you've ever been in an ultra? And I don't think they literally mean getting stuck in a bathroom or a monk's basement. So yeah. For some people in running, it's a psychological dark place.
Yeah, I guess there've been a couple of places. I'm trying to think, like offhand. I definitely think, as I mentioned, like dropping out of UTMB is actually like kind of stopping the race, almost like made it feel a lot worse. It's almost probably in a darker place than kind of continuing. But yeah, I think if even like thinking back to like Western States 2017, just being those last 20-30 Ks, just being so like out of it and just like having to keep pushing yourself. I think that springs to mind. Even going back to the Gobi Desert Race, my first ultra, running the long stage. Like I won the first 4 stages, but I like only had about a 7-minute gap on the second guy, and that were like the race was going to come down to the long stage. But I'd never run anything kind of close to 70 or 80 Ks, and I remember we raced so hard, but literally with about 20 Ks to go, I like managed to pull a gap on him, but I forgot to kind of eat and drink. And I was just so out of it, like just trying to get to this like aid station, just like kept on, like it just was like miles away. And I remember seeing like animal bones on the ground, and you start to think like, is this going to be me next? And you literally just you're just like one foot in front of the other. But I think by then, as you
like, should have just made broth out of those bones.
Exactly. But I think like with that, like sometimes that like just like that uber competitiveness kicked in, because I was just like stuff it, like I'm just gonna keep going until I collapse. Like I wanna see this one through. So yeah, I guess those are a couple of ones that spring to mind.
That's that champion. Listen, that's that champion mentality. Listen, Ryan, sorry, the beloved public has just snuck one more question in here.
Yeah.
Roger Redcliffe says, can you please get Courtney Dalwater to do a race here?
Cool. Yeah, she was here last year. Cool. No, she was here last year, and she was actually I think she was quite keen to, or still quite keen to do Ultra Trail Cape Town this year. Obviously, it just depends on kind of travel restrictions, etc. But she loved Cape Town when she was down here. So she's definitely kind of has plans to come back here. She came out last year, but unfortunately was injured before the race, so couldn't take part. But she definitely wants to run. So I'm sure she'll be on South African soil soon.
Oh, that's great to hear. And what's even better to hear is that, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Sands is not retiring. 38 and going strong. Yes. He is getting that bone broth in. Forget about your expensive drinks from the shops. He's eating like the English peasantry in the dark ages. Bone broth and championships. That's what we're doing. Ryan Sands still in the game. Ryan, I appreciate you, my brother, and everything you've done. You've done a great thing for the Republic of South Africa, and I'm patriotic to the
Thanks
death.
so much.
I want to thank you for being a champion and just being a cool dude. So, and I really appreciate your time. You're a legend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for all your support, and it's been amazing to be a part of your show, and hopefully chat again soon.
Yeah, hey, look forward to having you back because there's lots more stories, and we look forward to supporting you. Ryan Sands, you're unbelievable, brother. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much. You guys too. Cheers.
Shot. Ryan Sands, huh? What a badass mother. What a badass mother. How about those stories in the jungle? Huh? Nearly got done by a python. Boa constrictors, herdsmen in China. Great story. Ladies and gentlemen, this is good. Listen, that was nuts. That was nuts. But we'll have more for you, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow. The great, another South African great. He's in Europe right now doing backflips over everything. The great Greg Minnaar tomorrow. Ryan Sands, you're unbelievable. Greg Minnaar, I look forward to that for you folks tomorrow. True greatness from South Africa. For today, it has been a different ball game.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Cool.